Right now, this nation is still reeling from the assassination of Charlie Kirk last week. Who killed Charlie? Well, that's the question on everybody's mind. And most fingers, of course, point to Israel. The internet has proven to be much smarter than the establishment would like to think. It doesn't buy the official story. Now, official narratives don't matter much right now. The Trump administration is seizing this moment to crack down on dissent, free speech, and civil liberties. It's an ominous moment in our history, and President Trump has demanded flags nationwide be flown at half mast, and anyone not joining in the government mandated mourning faces consequences. Hundreds of Americans have been fired already or suspended for their pronouncements after Kirk's death. 6 NFL teams are under fire right now for not holding tributes before their games. The message is clear. You will mourn who the state tells you to mourn or face punishment. In a classic divide and conquer fashion, now the pro-Israel right in Washington has already declared the culprit was far left extremism, despite the investigation into the shooter not even being complete yet. They want to crush the leftist movement. Now, Trump himself promised, my administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to his atrocity. Okay. And a right-wing website has been set up already doxing individuals online for mocking Kirk's death. Kirk's allies are pushing for a new Red Scare, invoking the days of J. Edgar Hoover, where socialists and progressives were purged from power. They want a return to the days of Hoover, when socialists and progressives were hounded out of public life. Now, already lawmakers are pushing extreme measures, including a law that would mandate at least half of all professors at public universities be conservative. Imagine that, an ideological quota system designed to crush academic freedom while pretending it's about diversity. Meanwhile, Trump has openly threatened to suppress media outlets like ABC for so-called hate speech, trampling over the First Amendment. Politicians worldwide are denouncing the shooter, claiming there is no room for political violence. But make no mistake, this was no lone wolf. Whoever took out Charlie Kirk was a trained assassin. And yet, just days before his death, Israel assassinated a foreign head of state, Yemen's Prime Minister, Ahmed Ghalib Nasser al-Rahawi, along with most of his cabinet and 30 journalists. Israel wiped out half of Yemen's government while engaging in a genocide in Gaza. This was one of the biggest acts of political violence in a decade. And yet, it barely registered in Western media. Kirk's killing has generated 100 times the coverage. That media blackout is by design. Since November 2023, Yemen has enacted a humanitarian blockade of the Red Sea, stopping Israeli and allied vessels to pressure Israel to end the genocide in Gaza. That blockade devastated Israel's economy, collapsing revenue of Eilat port by 80%, forcing Eilat port to file for bankruptcy. That's why Yemen has been targeted with assassinations and delegitimization campaigns. One ship seized, the Galaxy Leader, belonged to Israeli billionaire Abraham Ungar, a close Likud party ally. Israeli ships like these have been accused of smuggling weapons for assassinations and sabotage inside of Iran. So that motive is clear why Israel is assassinating Yemeni leadership. So why would Kirk be targeted? Well, Turning Points USA, the organization Kirk leads, wasn't just another conservative nonprofit. It was one of Israel's most powerful assets in America. It shaped millions of young conservatives into loyal Christian Zionists. Without it, Israel's US lifeline would completely collapse. Now, according to the Gray Zone, pro-Israel billionaires tried to buy off Turning Points with a $150 million infusion. But Kirk pushed back. His support for Israel began to waver over this summer. echoing the shift we've been seeing across the entire MAGA base. We learned from Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson that Charlie was undergoing a spiritual awakening. He began to question Israel's policies, calling Netanyahu a bully and warning of ethnic cleansing in Gaza. He said he feared for his life. He invited guests critical of Israel onto his show and even warned Trump not to bomb Iran on Israel's behalf. At Turning Points USA's 2025 Student Action Summit, just a couple of months ago, Kirk gave the stage to speakers who openly discussed Jeffrey Epstein's ties to Israel and Israel's role in the Gaza genocide. Kirk crossed a red line. This backlash that he faced was immediate. In July, the American Jewish Committee blasted Kirk, saying he needed to go for questioning Israel. The AJC isn't just another lobby group. It's one of the oldest and most powerful with deep influence over U.S. foreign policy. AIPAC might as well could just move over. Now, weeks before his death, Kirk attended a closed-door meeting in New York with billionaire Bill Ackman, who reportedly hammered him for criticizing Israel. Kirk confided afterward that he felt watched, even blackmailed. He told his friends, "I have less ability to criticize the Israeli government than actual Israelis do." And that's really, really weird, he said. That paranoia weighed heavily in the weeks before his assassination. Not long after he was killed, Ben Shapiro of the Daily Wire and sex toy seller Rabbi Shmuley stepped in to carry Kirk's microphone, ensuring Israel remained the top priority. And Shapiro, despite all the cuts at the Daily Wire, quickly raised $1 million for Turning Points USA. A little too convenient, don't you think? Now, Kirk's story underscores just how deeply Israel's backers shape America's politics and society. Now let's get back to Bill Ackman again. He led a secretive campaign of wealthy pro-Israel benefactors to crush anti-genocide protests on U.S. campuses in 2023 and 2024. They threatened to pull funding from Harvard and Columbia unless administrators cracked down. And police did exactly that. Students were beaten, and Mahmoud Khalil, a leader of Columbia, was even detained by ICE for months. And at the center of the Columbia scandal, well, that's Dean Karen Yarhi Milo, a former Israeli intelligence analyst who once worked at Israel's UN Commission. Now, this kind of penetration into American institutions is widespread. And perhaps the most explosive story we've reported at Mint Press and have uncovered is the vast network of Unit 8200 operatives, Israel's elite cyber spying force who have quietly infiltrated the very companies controlling what billions of people see and hear online. Our investigations uncovered hundreds of former Israeli spies now working in top jobs at Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and TikTok. These aren't just any veterans. They are specialists in surveillance, disinformation, and psychological operations. Take Gabriel Goidel. He once ran training at Unit 8200 where his job was to identify patterns of hostile activists. Today, he is head of strategy and operations at Google. And it's not just Google. At Microsoft, we identified at least 166 Unit 8200 veterans in top roles. And TikTok, supposedly the great enemy of the Zionist right, well, they quietly hired a former Unit 8200 cyber commander in December of 2023, right as Israel was slaughtering civilians in Gaza. These aren't coincidences. This is systemic infiltration. Unit 8200 is notorious. It built the AI-driven kill list Israel used to auto-target civilians in Gaza. It orchestrated the Lebanese pager attack that injured thousands in 2024 on this very day last year. And it created the Pegasus spyware that regimes worldwide use to hunt journalists and dissidents, even playing a role in the gruesome murder of Jamal Khashoggi. And we've identified them all at Mint Press News. And yet these very operatives now all sit inside big tech companies, at American universities, and in our newsrooms, deciding what content to censor, what protests to silence, and what narratives to amplify. This is explosive because it means Israel's most powerful cyber war unit is now effectively managing the information diet of the world. When we ask why criticism of Israel is so aggressively silenced online, the fingerprints of Unit A200 are all over it. Now, the infiltration even extends into journalism. Axios's Barak Ravid, remember that name, who won a White House press award from President Biden, is a former Unit 8200 agent himself. So how did we get here? Where governments across the West ban protests, punish dissidents, and trample civil liberties, all to defend Israel's genocide and expansionist plans, and to empower forever wars and fuel the military-industrial complex that serves empire, while the far-right walls in the wings to inherit these new tools of repression. And Trump, perhaps to distract from his ties to the disgraced sex trafficker and Israeli asset, Jeffrey Epstein. By the way, Mint Press was among the first to report on that many years ago with our reporting with Whitney Webb. This is stoking a confrontation with Venezuela that could be as bloody and dangerous as Iraq. Yes, it's a dark time in the West, but rest assured, we at the mother of all talk shows will keep you informed and hold power to account. And that's why our reporting at Mint Press News is so important. And I hope you'll support us on our fundraising campaign on Indiegogo to keep our independent journalism alive. I'm Manar Adli of Mint Press News, sitting in for my dear friend George Galloway today. Don't go anywhere.